you're not able to insta-lock your first 2 picks. Like, you have to have had considerations as to what would happen when you have red side, and the fact that they're still waiting and still trying to solve this right now on stage is a little bit alarming. When you see Genji pick red side, there is no wait. The timer does not go down. Like, they know what they want to do. They have it planned out from start to finish, and T1 are just clearly not ready for that. As we will see the Enchanter support here for the Xin Zhao, whether it's in solo lane or not.
Yeah. No Lulu focus. They'll just take the Karma instead. And that does mean that, if they wanted to go Senna Kench, good luck with that. Not able to deny the Kench away from the Varus, if KT wanted to do that.
Yeah.
And the Rumble is still available, so you go for the Xin Zhao, you leave the Rumble available.
Even Thresh is still open, another strong option here for the Varus, so you can get a little bit of extra poke in. The Karma, shielding is not going to be all that great against consistent poke. I'm going to take the Renekton away instead. This is something that we haven't really talked about. Works really well with the Rumble. Has a very low win rate if you're just tuning in. It was 1 in 8 last week. So even though his priority is very high, he has not been successful. As for T1 now, do they show their hand on their AD carry? Pick up something like a Jinx here? Or do they just simply wait and kind of leave that for later? Because there's a lot to solve right now as T1. You're dealing with a lot of CC, a lot of poke. And they're just gonna grab the Jhin right away. And Jhin is great in terms of matching the range. His poke isn't going to be as deadly unless Teddy has another great carry game on the Jhin. We've seen him actually have the most successful Jhin here in the LCK, I would argue. We'll see how this one goes. Thresh ban, because they took the Renekton.
Thresh, Tom Kench might not be too unsurprising if we do see that combo come out. Although maybe they say if they're going to play Jhin Karma, maybe they can just poke the Kench away. But they definitely don't want to deal with the Thresh. So that'll be the first one off the board.
You know what's really cool about this too is KT still can fall back on the Leona pick. Leona's really strong with this comp. Solar Flare going to allow Varus to free hit, allow the equalizers to be really good. So I think you can't really lose when you have 2 great supports still available, and T1 can only ban one of the 2 away. And I think that's probably where Harp will end up falling here if the Tom Kench ban does go through. And if it doesn't, then you have that opportunity to have that really strong bottom lane and the Devour that's going to come with it. So they actually banned the Jace. I was expecting a bit of a flex here.
Yeah, I mean, the Jace, the 280 lanes with the Rumble in the jungle is not unheard of. It also does follow up really nicely with all the poke you have with the Varus and the Rumble, so they want to deny that.
Yeah. Another, poke opportunity that KT have would be the Zoe, but we're just not really finding success here in the LCK with that, with these types of Varus Rumble compositions. It's just not really working out. It's a meta that's super volatile, and burst damage is at an all-time high, so is the CC. So you have a denial pick here on this Leona. So, I mean, that's one way to prevent them having it, but Jhin, Leona, even though it's kind of an older favorite here in the LCK, doesn't have the same sort of synergy as a lot of other supports could have had, and this means that Karma will be going solo lane.
I wouldn't be surprised to see Kana playing the Karma. Just gonna throw that out. The Evolution's still available here, so you're going up against a Karma in one of the lanes, and they're probably still gonna pick the Tom Kench, especially with the extra threat of the Leona. No surprise there.
They lock in the Tom Kench first so they can get 25 more seconds to think about the Lucian pick and see if they, if everyone's on the same page, if they 100% want it. Well, I think it's going to guarantee you prio in the lane you put him in. It really discourages T1 from, something like a Gnar pick here. If they're going to run something like a Gnar, now they definitely don't want to, but you could put the Karma on Faker. So we don't know where this Karma is going to go, top or mid. We'll find that answer right now when this last pick comes through.
If I'm T1, I put that Karma straight into the top lane.
I mean, I know everybody is very upset with Kana right now, and for good reason. Wukong.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be the top lane. Karma will be mid. So you'll have the Lucian top for KT, or like a Renekton mid into the Karma. So it'll be an interesting matchup there.
Well, Faker's holding on to the Wukong for now. So let's see. Let's see when the swaps come in, because also Doran's playing Renekton. But now that's going to swap, and now this will swap for T1.
Do they swap one more time? Like, whoo! Oh, actually, yes. Oh, this is the matchup they want, maybe?
No, they swapped back. No, they swapped again.
Okay, well, this is how it's going to be.
They're actually just trolling.
Well, I mean, I think if
here we go.
If you really want to guarantee the Lucian into the Karma, like, you're trying to actually use the timer, like, legitimately in game to make sure you get that matchup by flipping like that. It's a little bit silly, but they get the matchup they want in the end because T1 clearly had no intention of trying to play that game with them in the swap phase. So it will be Dove on the Lucian, Doran on the Renekton. So they will look for a really strong matchup into the Karma. They're going to have mid-prio with this. Guarantee the skirmishing power that comes with the Varus and the Rumble, you know, on some of these objectives, once the Varus gets his Dirk online, I look at this comp for KT, it's got a little bit of late game, it's got a little bit of skirmishing power. A lot of the onus on this game for T1 is going to be on Cuz. He actually needs to make sure that this early game ends up being pretty nice tempo advantage for T1 on some of these objective fights. If they fall behind early, it is going to be a nightmare to catch up.
All right, well, let's see how it goes here, hopping into game number 3. Wasn't sure we would go the distance in this series after seeing game number 1. I thought T1 had showed up in a big way, and they really kind of abused their comp, essentially, in that first game. They got way far ahead. But KT fight back. I think T1's comp this time around is definitely easier to play compared to game 2. So
sure.
There's that.
Sure. I mean, Teddy's a really great Jhin player. If we had the same comp with a lot of other AD carry players in our league, I would not be as confident, but I know that Teddy is really, really confident on Jhin, and in this meta in particular, very confident on Jhin. But yeah, it's no secret. Everybody knows it. The elephant in the room, whatever you want to call it, is our top teams from spring are not finding the same level of dominance or success here in summer. And I think part of that is because there's a lot of stress, there's a lot of pressure going into summer season where a lot of these teams want to dethrone Damwon Kia. Damwon Kia has their own problems that they're trying to solve. Like, they had problems on an international stage they're now trying to solve domestically, right, if that makes sense. Trying to fix the bot duo. So there's a lot of things going on here in the LCK right now. But on top of that, the big wrench that gets thrown into the gears is an extremely volatile meta. So results that you expect don't always happen here in LCK this season so far, and compositions that seem stronger in spring are falling apart, so teams are having to adapt. And it's just a completely new world that we're living in, so sometimes these games go to game 3. KT have had, like I said, 4 of these before. This is their 5th third game. And they're hoping to look for their first win in a game 3 in summer.
Yeah. We'll see if it works out for them here. Their comp, I kind of like it. The Renekton is pretty interesting. It almost feels like budget set, and it doesn't necessarily go perfectly with the comp that they have. It can kind of be like a bruisery frontline, which is a lot of what we get nowadays in this volatile meta that you were talking about. And it can certainly absorb a lot of the pressure from the picks on the side of T1, such as the Wukong and the Xinjiao. But you can see here, the Renekton has been struggling. It hasn't been easy streets for him, 1-8.
Yeah, we've had a few players really be standouts in the top lane for Renekton. It's been the mid laners who have struggled. Like, Khan did quite great on it earlier. You trust a player like Khan to do well on it. You trust a player like Keen to do well, and Doran is one of those players. He's in the list, right? We haven't seen, I don't think Rascal actually play it yet this season, but he's another player you would expect to do very well on Renekton and top lane. So, the player factor does come into this, and we've seen a bit of a weird set of drafts where some of the weaker top laners have ended up on the Renekton, some of the mid laners who aren't comfortable with Renekton have played it this season. So that's like his last week's stats, but he's overall just not doing too great. But I think that, given that we have a really strong AP jungler that works well with Renekton, should be a good game as 3-0.
Yeah, his win rate on Monkey King is 3-0. That's what it said there. And, yeah, he's played 3 games of it. Obviously kind of does know how to play this pick. I was kind of calling for it in the last game, but we finally do get it.
And here's what I was talking about. You know, sure, you have a ward for this, but might not be enough. You have to have a teleport answer.
Okay, Doran is waiting a little bit of time, but at the end of the day, you can just flash on in and get that stun down. The teleport from Faker is trying to absorb pressure, but it is not going to work out very well.
It's not going to give him any kills. Thought maybe, you know, we'd see... Hold that thought. It's a little bit of action down here. I thought we'd maybe see Jin Zhao go mid to try to push that or something, but he's actually going to come all the way down here, so Cuz is ready to pounce. They want to trade this back. The root is good, but there's just only 4 minions here. And look at the poke from Noah before this even happens. That's the end of that. Can't stick around anymore.
Yeah. Going to deny that. I think maybe if he was able to bait the Devour from the Tahm Kench early, then maybe we would have seen a quick dive, but not going to be the case here, as it will just be called off. Xin Zhao will back away. So far in this early game, still, once again, very good for KT on the dive up on the top side. They get the teleport out of Faker in the trade.
The kill goes over to Dove, actually, on the Lucian. So, it's going to make that mid lane a little bit more annoying. As meanwhile, Kana on the verge of 6 here. Doran showing some respect. It's just going to get zoned out, though, and this really hurts.
Kind of like how Kana played that one, but at the same time, you're not taking great trades against the Renekton, especially after dying, as we're going to take a look here at the replay on the dive.
Yep. Teleports coming through from both mid laners, traded.
Oh, we got another fight here. Cuz getting a bit low, but they're looking to turn it onto Blank, but the Devour is there, as Harp level 3 is able to save Blank from the bottom lane. And now the extended trade comes in, and KT will be able to push them away, force the flash from Cuz. But nobody dies because Harp is in position.
So I believe getting 2 flashes, Keриa's flash and Cuz's flash here in this exchange. Dove hits 6 to push the wave. Gonna slow down some of these backs. Now, at the same time, Teddy is getting some pressure on the bottom side of the map, but not a ton. Hasn't even gotten that first plate just yet. As Keria wants to maybe make something happen here. He's level 4, so I guess at the end of the day, it's not gonna be possible, but did stay for a little while. And, you know, Faker's just never gonna get to go back. The early game has gone exactly as planned here so far for KT Rolster. They got some value out of the Renekton and the Rumble comp. You get some flashes here. Keria flashed forward actually into this, but they're still not able to make this happen. It's a really nice save from Harp. Comes in. Does have to use his own flash. But, you know, the exchange is so much better for KT because Blank survives. And then they delay so many backs. Like I mentioned before, the bot push from Teddy doesn't get him any plates. So now KT are poised to take the first Drake of the game.
Yeah, and with Jin still running back, I thought maybe they could go into that, but actually Dove was in the base, so not going to rush it just yet. You want to make sure you have some prio in the mid lane before you do go into trying to force an objective. It's actually a very nice angle on that ward. Yeah, able to spot this one.
Love those Tahm Kench sound effects.
And now with no flash here on a Keria, they're trying to get the slow and the stun maybe with the lick, but nope. Just going to be pushing him away down below half health.
The reason they targeted Keria there was because Teddy has flash and cleanse available, so he is almost certainly never going to die. They know that Keria doesn't have flash, so it's a target that might not be able to escape. They didn't have quite the amount of consistent damage there to burn him down.
All right, well, the ultimate is going to be used, but Dominus Renekton just laughs at the Wukong. At least he'll be able to farm that up nicely because he is down
quite significant.
CS.
Yeah, almost 20 down, so that hurts. I mean, the death that he had earlier definitely causing him to lose quite a bit of farm. You can see the pings coming down the top side of the map here because he is able to identify there's a big rotation. Leona's missing, right? So KT's macro sense and their communication, you could see it even in the pings without hearing game comms, is just so good. Once again, okay, yeah, I'm pushing the top turret. They're rotating up. Let's try to punish. So it's a big rotation from KT yet again. It is the same situation where Teddy is the one man left standing in lane, and he's going to get some extra farm, but at the end of the day, this Rift Herald is going to be way more valuable than that.
Yeah, I mean, really depends on how much Teddy can get going. And as you can see here, Noah isn't going to be out of the lane for too long. Teddy gets a whole wave, might be able to deny one cannon, but unlikely because it is Varus. who should be able to snipe it here from range. Here we go. And yeah, it's just the one plate and a bit of farm.
Yeah, better than nothing, but, you know, T1's composition in this early part of the game has struggled. And T1 is a team that has found most of their success this season with snowbally early leads. And then, you know, unfortunately with the Jin comp that they're running, he kind of de-synergizes with the other skirmishing power that they have in this comp with the Wukong early, you know, Faker being on this Karma to give him a little bit more movement speed when we do come into these Drake fights coming up. Jin isn't going to be very online until much later on, whereas Varus is extremely strong. He's got his Dirk online. You know, you're still looking at an equalizer team fighting comp that has also a Renekton to skirmish, so T1 is not out of the woods for a long time in this game. Like, they're not going to be able to say, well, at least we had our spike in this mid game to try to catch up. Like, it's going to be very difficult to pull that off.
Yeah. There will be opportunities, I think, if you can find, like, the Rumbles specifically out of position. Maybe you just burst them down, knock them up, get the Wukong and the Xin Zhao in there with that extra movement speed from the Karma, and maybe you can get something going. But
yeah, it's not impossible by any means.
But for right now, KT definitely in full control of this game. They're going to look to take down all the objectives that they possibly can, as actually going to get the lick onto Cuz here. And they won't actually force the Cloud Drake just yet.
They won't have a little bit more mid-prio. Might even toss down this Rift Herald to guarantee it and get some extra gold here before doing so. They know that Jin Leona are on the bottom side, and they're actually just going to keep that prio there. And they do not drop the Herald. Just going to start the Drake here very calmly. They might even give the Herald gold over to Noah here, potentially, actually. You know, Lucian did get early kill. First blood went to him, so that's hurting for gold. Get the Drake for free. Don't really lose control over any of the map while doing so. Just like the most boring, good macro play out of KT that you could ask for.
Yeah. Once again, I mean, T1 from behind here, you have to wonder about that red side pick once again. I feel like it didn't really pan out for them in the draft. I mean, some of their lanes, you look at the top side, one gank is all it takes for the Renekton to just take off. It's like he boards the plane and just launches himself into the sky. And he's going to be totally fine against the Wukong. Wukong very far behind up there, about 25 CS. And then other than that, yes, you get the Karma very early on, and it's obvious that T1 prioritized this pick very highly, even compared to some other teams. And I don't mind that. Karma is a good champion right now, but goes into the lane against the Lucian. Dove gets one kill, and now he's just free farming, and he has the prio anyway. Even if Karma's able to clear waves, it's not like she has much kill pressure.
Yeah.
So the Xin Zhao in your jungle as well is just like, well, I was supposed to get stuff done early, but my top lane is so far behind. Karma can't help me kill Lucian. And bottom side is like, yeah, you know, we were looking for a dive, but that failed. And now what do I do?
And when you
lose all the objectives, I guess?
When you look at the draft for T1, you know, in the order too that it went in, the Xin Zhao priority just didn't really make that much sense. We've seen a few players actually make use of Xin Zhao quite well in a vacuum. This Faker, hold on.
He's got Carrion nearby, and here comes the equalizer as they're trying to get on top of Dove, and they will be able to. Blank now, a little bit out of position, has to flash away. Curtain call will be thrown out here, but Harp is in position and denies any further action.
Yep. It was a really nice call from T1 there. And it's a pretty huge pick on the Dove. Turnaround is great. See the Rift Herald tossed here. And I believe that one was getting close to timing out.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a long walk down towards the bottom side of the map. But this is kind of awkward because this forces T1 to hover around this bottom side of the map for this play. Whereas Faker is meanwhile happy to sit in the mid lane with Dove respawning, and then he could rotate down. So it's not going to be necessarily the value that KT was looking for.
I guess.
Well, as I say it, Xin Zhao does not come down here, and I guess just get the plates for sure. And no potential follow-up picks or anything like that.
Yeah. Nice amount of damage there. You're feeding your AD carry. Noah at this point in time, tied with Doran, actually, for the most CS in the game, as well as Teddy. And just sitting pretty, stacking up the cash. Top lane, every time we look at it, is just kind of sad.
Yeah.
As this is just Renekton, who got an early kill and early pressure, just taking off with this lane.
It's happened a lot with Wukong so far in summer. You know, he was played a little bit by like Rich and Khan like once or twice last season, but you know, this season he was highly prioritized by a few players, including Rich once again, and he just has not really been very successful. And he usually starts to fall apart in the laning phase. It's a champion that can skirmish extremely well, and if it does get a lead, it's, you know, he's very strong. I mean, there's a reason why top Korean teams are picking him still, but you know, it's not solo queue we're looking at here in this game, right? And it's a bit of a weird priority. Once again, the red side pick kind of feeling a little bit out of place here for T1. You don't get the Varus either, you know.
Yeah, that was really the question. It's like, why pick the red side if this is what you end up with? But things could have looked differently from the early game. If the Wukong Xin Zhao get ahead and the Xin Zhao is able to get a lot of effective ganks early on in the game, then you actually do have some really nice gank pressure, but just didn't pan out that way.
And Teddy can still kind of carry this game later on if he's given the opportunities to do so with the really strong front line that T1 have. And yeah, Wukong isn't going to be really threatening to kill anybody if this game doesn't change very quickly or anything like that, and he's often going to be in danger when he goes in, but he still will be a body that gives Teddy a lot more freedom in some of these objective fights that are coming up. The problem is that KT are going to probably have a 2-0 Drake lead before the next fight that T1 wants to look for. And I don't even know if they're guaranteed this Rift Herald. The group up is coming through from KT, teleport from Lucian in, from the side from Dove.
Yeah, and Kana coming on down, double teleport now. The Chains of Corruption as the Equalizer follow-up will force the flash away from Keria. As, again, this is the second Rift Herald, so T1, they're actually going to use this timing to come in here and get this Tier 1 turret, or at least get some damage down, but the Stridebreaker comes in, and now Cuz might be in some trouble. Has to flash away from that one just to survive. So you can see Teddy looking to make some moves. They do have a nice amount of poke, trying to thread the needle here.
Yeah, that was a... you can see KT reacting. Oh, that's really frustrating.
Yeah. Now look at this. You can see the synergy, you know?
Yeah, and this is enough pressure to actually take that Drake control away. Kana sits up in the top lane all alone. And suddenly, what seemed like a pretty safe contest on the Drake all falls apart in moments here for KT Rolster. And, you know, T1 proactive, using their comp correctly, waiting for the right moment for Teddy to curtain call in to push them away, to lay those backs. Cuz gets the Drake. It's a 1-for-1. And this is not T1 taking the team fight, right? You know, that's still not the case. But it is them actually using their composition to peel away from an objective and get advantages on the map. So Kana's not going to let that back happen right here.
Infernal Soul for the third time in the series.
Yeah. It's like the Drakes are saying it's T1 favored, you know? Put the red color in.
In this series, or rather in this meta, Infernal Soul feels like the most, I wanted to say Fiery Drake, because it makes a lot of action, right? But that's a little bit too punny, I think, for this stream.
Well, I think I know what you mean.
Yeah.
It certainly is one of the ones that's really explosive. Like Mountain and Infernal are so important, especially with the proclivity of Lethality Varus.
Yeah.
The Mountain Soul has been so strong.
All right, trying to get on here. He's going to get the Devour out, but now looking for the follow-up. As the Flash will come in and deny any further engage. Faker is speeding around the map. He's got his roller skates on. Max would be proud. But yeah, the Karma enjoying the time. Is just going to use that TP though, and the Rift Herald fight looks like it might be flaring up here once again.
Bit of a flare-up, as you say. The group up from T1 is so awkward right now because they're actually trying to back set up Wukong, resetting. He has a teleport, but KT have so much control over this choke. Now, once again, T1 look to maybe push the mid lane. They think better of it. I don't know if you're going to get away with this twice, T1.
TP comes in. Noah's doing a nice amount of damage. Keria, no flash, no ultimate, and Cuz just goes in and dies for free, not able to use his ultimate to even try to escape. Now the Rift Herald is going to leash again, and Teddy is just trying to assassinate on the Jhin. But now here comes the huge equalizer. The slow is making this very difficult for T1 to escape, and you can see the chase power of KT is also pretty nice. They're going to pick up another kill here. Speaking of chase power, Abyssal Voyage comes in, and it's looking like both of these T1's members should be going down. Denial on the blast cone, and that's going to be a 4 4-0 as KT are just taking off now.
Yeah, they really are. This is another fight where T1 just got a little bit desperate to try to force something here when their comp needs to play that a little bit slower. You talked about the assassination attempt there onto Noah, and that feels like has been the entire MO for T1 all game long, is to try to find a kill on this Varus. They've been unsuccessful every time they've tried, and overextending like that is really what led to T1's demise when they could not escape. I'll watch it another time. They come in here very greedy. Carry is at half health, so trying to engage with Zenith Blade is just so tough. So he has to back out. Then you see the stun come on to Cuz. Like he's hoping that Carry is going to come in and engage, but Carry said, no, man, I'm at half health. I can't do that. Then you see Teddy come over here. It's like, well, now it's a four-man, maybe even an ace, right? For KT, they look at this moment like, oh, you guys have actually just really overstepped your boundaries here. And like you said, the chase power is there. And Teddy looking for that play onto Noah, I think, was a little bit silly because you're already lost the fight. You really just need to cut your loss at this point. If you let this KT composition snowball, you're never getting another way back into this game.
Yeah. And it kind of just comes down to forcing fights when you're not in a good position to. You mentioned the half health for Carrier, but he also had no flash and no ult. Like, Carrier goes in there, he probably just dies immediately. So you shouldn't even be looking to posture for that fight. But they had the flank from the top side with the teleport of the Wukong, which they have not able to really pull off even once. That kind of hard engage onto Noah, assassinate the Varus. But again, you know, they left the Tahm Kench available through 2 ban phases and potentially picking it up for yourself. And, you know.
There's consequences.
Yeah, there are consequences. You know, you try to get everything in your composition to kill the Varus. It's not going to work out when he has so many friends.
Yeah, and this is a fight over the second Rift Herald, and you know, there's been some talk about what's happening in comms for T1. Like I said, there's a lot of interviews. You can go look them up, you know, with the coaching staff.
Oh, no. Well, he doesn't have a Tahm Kench, unfortunately.
Nope.
And Carrier will even be forced to flash away from that one.
That's not, Leona can't use her shield very much. Not really. Not going to be able to block anything with that one.
That was a nice play by Noah. He's, you know, the Prowler's Claw, we used to talk about, you know, the stats and why you take it and stuff. You generally don't use that active, but sometimes, some Varuses, they find an opportunity and they make it happen.
I mean, it's really powerful when you have that opportunity. T1, not a whole lot of poke damage on the edge of this Baron. I mean, not really any at all. They're going to have to hard engage if they wanted to contest this, and here we go.
Yeah, looks like they will try. Cuz still available here, looking for the flank. They're able to get on top of Dove, as he will go down, but Cuz the jungler is being burned, but still, as Rumble hits the deck, he's going to go down, and T1 are able to wipe the slate clean here with a triple kill to Faker, and now they'll go for the Baron.
This ends up being what happens. Faker respawns, he comes back in. T1 have a composition that if it can close the gap and get on top of KT Rolster, there's a lot to be said in the composition, right? This is the Wukong power we were talking about earlier on. You have the ability to shield everybody and keep them all, you know, healed up and actually give them a little bit of movement speed with this Karma pick. But when you get the Leona in on top, it's like, okay, you've done your job here, essentially. So we're going to go all the way back to watching the Prowler's Call play, which was so fantastically done. You even see the Rumble commitment there, too. They're all on the same page. But once Carrier gets in here, I mean, this is where things go really badly. Doran's at very low. Cuz comes in too. And there's a lot of kind of wombo potential here actually for T1 themselves. And the AoE in this last moment for Kana is like, well, very easy cleanup. Sweeping it up. That's going to be a Baron for T1. This momentum just keeps swinging back and forth. Feels like we're watching a seesaw series.
Yeah. It's a little bit of what I expected between these two. I feel like, as you guys can probably tell, these two teams pretty equal footing coming into this matchup and in the play. But yeah, you know, they finally made that Wukong flank work. And that's what we've been waiting for with this composition. If you're not going to get that done, you're going to have a lot of trouble. So let's see what they can do from here as the Infernal Drakes are beginning to spawn. T1 do have good position on them right now. You see KT a little bit more apprehensive after that last fight.
You know, Kana's actually got control of the bottom side of the map, so wrapping around into this is so difficult. And when you have a Karma who can just speed boost everybody onto the objective, you can play forward like this, as T1 are. They have vision control too, so they know nobody's even nearby. And they even get that control ward up. Baker puts there on the left of the Krug, saying, okay, well, literally nobody's here. I checked every possible avenue of us getting flanked and collapsed on. Zero chance they're going to be able to do so. Free turret for Kana on the bottom side as well. T1 have really wrestled control back in this game, and we'll take a gold lead for the first time in this game too. And, you know, the composition that KT have is not one that's completely reliant on snowballing, you know, like we were talking about. But if they did snowball, like, the game would very likely end shortly after that. But there's still a chance they come back and win the fight if they end up having the opportunity to take that front-to-back team fight with the Varus, right, with the Lucian, all that damage that comes with it. But T1 have just not given them any opportunities in these last exchanges, and that greedy Baron for KT is what's going to haunt them for the rest of this game, and potentially if the series ends, you know, that's going to be the moment we remember the turn.
Yeah. I mean, they had a healthy enough lead that all they had to do is basically not get flanked, and they kind of forced it. They had already done a lot of damage to the Baron, and their turn is pretty good. But I think maybe even the Chains of Corruption were still down, not 100% sure, and they just got kind of crunched in there. So we're going to go back to the drawing board, see how they can handle this pressure. We're going to kind of even out here with the Baron ending with very similar gold values, but the extra Infernal in T1's pockets is going to be pretty big.
Yeah, I mean, you need to talk about Karma, what she's going to offer with this build she's got. Staff of Flowing Water has a redemption online. The Shirelius is obviously the big one that's going to give her already insane movement speed boost, you know, quite a big bump. But she's had that for a while, but now she's starting to get a lot more support items online for these face roll fights where you're going to see Keria come through, you're going to see Kana come in like we saw on the Baron pit. So T1, as long as they could stay grouped or have a flanking collapse like we saw and what we saw attempted from Kana even moments before, they definitely have a competent team fight. The onus is on KT to actually hit that poke. And so many times in the LCK, that has been the defining factor with these Varus Rumble comps. Do you hit the poke so that the follow-up, you know, engage can come through? Or do you fail and just get out-sustained and then just run over? Like T1 will hit like a truck when they collapse and close that gap, close that distance. In the interim, you have to do that damage. Yeah. Once they get on top of you, if you haven't put their health bars low, that's the end.
Yeah, and I think that Karma priority for the side of T1 may actually begin to dish out here as she hits 3-4 items. The side lane has been pretty unfortunate after the early to mid game, actually, for Doran. He's fallen behind 2 levels already. Just a couple of big team fights for Kana, and he's able to immediately take the lead there. So it's nothing like the laning phase, which was just only sadness for the Wukong.
Yeah, no, he's really turned things around. T1, you know, it's pretty common for T1 to have a great laning phase, a great start to a game, and then kind of fall apart with their team fights later on. That's been the story of summer for them in 2021. But in this game, it's a completely different story, right? The early game was a little bit rough, no prio, but the team fights have been fantastic. The coordination has been there. They have made snap decisions, and that's what you're hoping for as T1. If you're a T1 fan, so that goes wide.
I feel like Faker saw that coming, but he still had to flash. Noah's like the assassin on his team, going for that twice in a row.
Yeah. Definitely learn from your past mistakes or your past deaths, in this case for Faker. Next Drake fight's in about 75 seconds here, and you know, it's going to be a brawl. This is going to be arguably the defining moment in this game. The T1 continue this advantage in every single fight and then really start to run away with even map control, which will be gained by this if they end up winning the fight. Do KT give this up? I don't think they can. They do not appear willing to do so. Kana has teleport.
Here we go. That's what you got to do if you're Noah.
Yeah.
But now, with the Shirelius down, the Mantra Inspire down, KT, we're considering a follow-up, but it's not going to be very easy.
Notice Kana is just staying in the base. He's waiting for his perfect teleport angle. He's going to wait until the last possible second to decide where that's going to be.
We saw a ping down on the bottom side. Yeah, he's going to have to go down there and clear the wave, started pushing. But KT immediately say, well, what if we just hard engaged onto you? Trying to, you know, get as much as they possibly can. Some massive shields come in. Yeah. When I say hard engage, they actually don't really have much. Unless the Renekton's going to flash on you. It's about as close as it's going to get for the side of KT.
I mean, look at the long wraparound here from Kana. They do not know where he is. They have no vision. Okay, they see him now. They expected that he was coming.
They can turn onto him. He's moving away, actually, onto the wards.
Teddy's trying to slow that process.
Yeah, well, actually, let's try to go onto the front. You can see how difficult it is for KT to actually engage. As here we go, that is a really nice ultimate onto Noah, as he has no flash, and he will just immediately go down. Keria gets low, but that is totally fine, as Dove will also bite the dust, and KT are being dominated down here on the bottom side of the river. Only Doran will survive, but he cannot do anything about this
Doran, and Doran survives here, but KT, they just could not actually pick a target. They were so slow to do so. Okay. Teddy will die, and that's a nice bit of extra gold here, but the fact of the matter still stands. Not only do T1 get a second Infernal and Infernal Soul Point, but they showed that their positioning is good and that KT just are unwilling to team fight, or unwilling to pick targets here in the team fight correctly. Like, Teddy's positioning here is so insanely greedy. He knows he has a control ward there, so he actually cannot be seen. But the fact that a Jhin is able to walk basically right up to a KT composition and no one collapses on him, no one reacts, nobody's communicating as to where he should be or where he is a really worrying sign for KT's ability to actually front to back these team fights. The fact that a Jhin could just walk in, no questions asked, is pretty absurd.
Yeah, I mean, they had Flash Renekton, and that's one of your only options, but you have that option, right? And they just chose not to take it. I think they panicked a little bit. They weren't able to collapse onto either side. If they go for the Wukong, kind of just runs away, and then, you know, T1 take the Infernal Drake for free. So it's not like you can just say, oh, we've got him isolated, let us try to take him down.
Yeah, I mean, it's wait. Oh, Solar Flare.
Okay. This time around, though, the TP does come in, and the Devourer is in a good position, as Doran will get into that backline. He is quite tanky, but it does not seem to matter, as Dove is just going to get isolated, and so will Noah. KT have fallen apart, and T1 have immediately jumped on top of them. And they are pushing to try to end this game.
Yeah, Redemption gonna make it even easier to make that happen. He tosses it down. They are pushing down the mid lane. Only defensive option here is a Renekton and a Tom Catch, so you just don't have the damage. We are 30 minutes into the game, and T1 are gonna seal the deal here. Doran and Harp gonna do what they can to delay, but the inevitable is crashing down upon them.
All right, Doran is gonna get devoured. He is a Renekton, but it doesn't seem to matter. As nice stopwatch, because it's going to be the one sacrifice. Another stopwatch will get the job done as they finally kill the Croc, and the Nexus will go down. T1 will take the 2-1 victory tonight as they do kill the final Nexus. It was a battle. It was back and forth. KT had opportunities, but T1 were the better team in the end.
T1 were the better team in the end, and they had way better team fights in that last game.